Hello and welcome to Thanet Writers Meet Sam Kaye. Sam is a writer, a poet, a geek and many other things besides. So Sam, welcome to Thanet Writers.
Thank you.
So first of all, let's clear one thing up. Novels, short stories,
Right.
or poetry? Which one do you prefer?
Oh, well. Oh, that's not fair.
It starts me to go on.
That's not fair. Novels.
Novels,
I think novels.
Why?
Novels is where I started. The reason why is because of those three, with a novel, there's a journey.
Right.
Oh, there's a journey in everything. There's a journey in poetry. There's a journey in short stories. With a novel, it's the space that you get. It's the dimension you can build. It's the universe building. It's the characters. I can get all the things that are desperate to come out. I think are novel sized.
Right. Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. And actually, I kind of want to sort of come back to novels in quite some detail because I can clearly see that is clearly your passion. But before we get on to that, let's quickly touch on poetry because it's something that I know has been a more recent introduction to you. What got you involved in poetry in the first place? Coming from a place of novels, how did you get into poetry?
It actually first started out when I first went to the Thanet Writers group.
Mm-hmm.
It was on a Thursday night. I'd been going for a few weeks at this point and taking some of my work. And at that point, or up to that point, I hadn't yet encountered poetry at the group. And one night, someone brought a small poem in, quite a simple poem. It was just a simple rhyming poetry, and not only did it leave an impression on me. When I was reading this, something jumped out, and I thought, you know what? I think I could do this. I think I'd like to have a go at this. There was no particular goal. There was no. I didn't have any particular story or emotion to get out. I just thought, this is something I've not done before. I'm gonna have a go at this. Let's just have a go. So I went home that night and I wrote a very simple rhyming poetry which I called Evil Starts the First Chink. It was just a very silly view of how alcohol views us. It was a simple rhyming poem. And I took that to the group and I took it to my friend and I was like, you know what? Keep at that. Keep going. And that's where it started.
Wow.
And since then I've written I think maybe 7 or 8 poems.
What I find particularly interesting is you've gone from writing the poems to then performing the poems.
Yeah.
Now, talk me through that because writing a poem I can understand to a degree. I've never written poetry, I've never performed poetry, but how did you get from creating and crafting these poems to then standing up in front of a room full of people?
Peer pressure.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
When I started to get into poetry, suddenly I started to realise that it could be used as a tool to get out certain problems and emotions. A lot of people do. I think poetry is good for that. And one of the things that I was tackling at the time, something I seldom spoke about until I started doing poetry, was I was having some difficulties with depression and anxiety. A lot of people do. And it was one of those things where I thought, I might feel better about myself if I can try and put it into words, in a paragraph. So I did that. And I wrote, and it felt very emotional, and it was quite powerful. And it was at this point when I was starting to interact with the various members of the group, the writers group, and saying, you know what, you should come along to a poetry night. You should get up, and you should have a go.
Okay.
Which my response immediately was, no way. My poetry's terrible, and I'm absolutely petrified. I could, if I got up on stage, I'd probably collapse. And that was when I started to sort of come out with the fact that I suffer with terrible anxiety. And that was kind of what spurred me on. A friend of mine said, you know, if you're suffering with terrible anxiety, the way you're going to fix it is by getting up there and doing it. So I did. I did it purely as a dare to myself. I did it because it scared me. That's...
Well, kind of later than that, I mean, how did you when you were there at that poetry night? How did you feel?
Do you know what? The opening. I mean, I was quite far down the list. I've never been so scared. I was shaking. I felt sick. I was sweating. My friend was sitting nearby, kept looking at me. You could see that I was struggling. I was like, oh God. And it started. I thought, I'm going to leave the room. I'm going to run away. No, I'm not. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to run away. No, I'm not. I'm going to stick. No, I'm going to run away. And I started talking to the person next to me. I didn't even know this person. I went, I'm really scared. Oh, you went, oh, okay. No, I'm really scared. I'm going to go. So I sort of humoured myself. And then obviously, I was then introduced, and thankfully the guy who introduced me knew me and knew I was a bit nervous, and he actually announced that. He said, right, this Sam, he's brand new to this, never done it before. Let's give him some support, let's help him out, and everyone cheered, and it was really nice. And I went up, and suddenly all the nerves disappeared.
Right.
It was that initial preparation, up there doing it. Couldn't believe how much I enjoyed doing it. And that's helped fix a lot of problems in my life.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's strong. I think my next question might be quite potent in that case. Is, do you see a future with yourself and poetry, having been in a place where you probably hadn't even considered it a while ago? What is next for you in poetry in that case?
I think so. I mean, I've not touched poetry for some time. I wrote a set of poems. I sort of had this small collection, and at the time I was like, this is it. This is all I want to do. And I took this set with me, and I went around and did a few poetry nights. By doing that and facing that fear again, it broke that crippling anxiety that I've been struggling with. And I wouldn't say I'm cured, but it pushed me so far beyond it that now things like that don't scare me so much. So if there's a future in poetry, I'm not sure. I've been working a little bit more, trying to get this novel out and short stories and things. I haven't sort of been compelled to go back, but I think, given some time, I think I'd like to take that poetry again, take it back, re-experience it, and I think there could be more things to come out. I was not going to force it.
No. Okay, well, it's interesting. I kind of wanted to start with that poetry because that quite intrigued me as being perhaps a non-poet to go into that and become a poet. But let's kind of go back in that case to your first love of kind of the story form and things like that. Let's start with kind of novels because that's what you're talking about in that sense. But what are you working on at the moment? And you're working on the novel that I've
the novel
that I've heard about. So talk to me about that. What's that all about?
Okay, so it's currently on its, I think, 4th rewrite. Okay. As in I've written 10,000 words. Nope, that's not right. 20,000 words. Nope, that's not right. Started again. Nope, that's not right. I keep going through these stages where I've started it, I've stopped it, I've started it, I've stopped it, I've done other things because this particular story and the character that I need to portray is more of a need than a want. It's what got me into writing. It's it's a way of me bringing forward every inspiration and every character that I've enjoyed through certain medias in life, and I need this character to come out of my mind onto the paper. But my main aim of the story really is to portray the kind of desperate reality that this man, this soldier David, is in. It's not necessarily just about trying to save people. It's not just about what he's doing. It's more trying to almost trying to give birth to a legend almost. Someone who I can take forward in different stories, and this will become his what people always talk about in the next stories.
Right. I mean, talk to me in that case about your inspiration, because you talk about how he is kind of the culmination of a lot of kind of backstory in terms of your head and kind of what you've taken on, media, culture, etc. Yeah. What influences you and what has shaped David's inception?
That's quite a tricky question now. In a previous life, I'm not ashamed to admit that in a previous life, I did spend quite a lot of time playing computer games.
Whatever, yeah.
And I found that the games and the stories that I latched onto were the ones that had the characters that you just so wished you were, that you wanted to be. And it was their story, their character, and it was what was happening to them and the way they grew. And some of those characters came with me, and they've always sort of stayed with me. And then it's also when I started to read, because I didn't start reading until a much later age. And some of the characters and their stories, they just stayed in my mind. And what was happening over time is a singular person was sort of growing in my mind that seemed to have taken all of these bits that where it felt important to me, all those bits felt relevant, and it was just creating this figure in my mind. And this figure just became desperate to come out, and this is why I started to try and write him.
But it sounds to me as well that really your own editor is really coming out as well, because you're on, I mean, what do you say, the 4th, the 5th iteration of
I
the
think
novel now?
I think I've tried about 5 times to get this now, which is terrible because it breaks the proverbial law of first drafting.
Well, what interests me is kind of your editor there is kind of really starting to craft that, and I find that interesting. How do you find the editing process as you're going through it so far?
I've had to learn how to write because obviously when I started not so long ago, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I never did it in college or school or anything. So when I first started writing it, it has to be perfect. Every sentence I'd mull over and over again. Every paragraph had to be right, had to be perfect. And eventually, I was writing myself into a corner. And I tried to stop that. I allowed myself to write rubbish. That's the trick. That's the tricky bit. But every time I did that, it felt like the character wasn't coming out properly. And I keep trying to say to myself, you must get through that first draft. Then you can start to shape it, mould it, and make it better. But I'm still trying to learn that. So I'm on my 4th or 5th attempt, and it's going much better now because I'm allowing myself to just get on with it.
Yeah.
Worry about the details later. Make it better later.
Yeah. Something you touched on was this kind of concept of learning how to write. I mean, for you, some people say sort of learning how to write on short stories, for example, or they'll kind of launch into a novel. What did you cut your teeth on? Did you cut your teeth on this novel, or did you try on something else first? Or
it was this novel.
Oh, wow, okay.
Straight off the bat, one day I'd had enough of thinking about writing it and just thought, you know what, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you where it came from. It's just I've got to do this now. It has to happen now.
And actually, I'd like to come back and perhaps talk to you again in maybe a year's time when perhaps the book is done and you're perhaps starting out that publishing.
On my 6th rewrite.
6th, whatever. Yeah. And actually, kind of then we can see perhaps your publishing journey as well. So we'll have to come back and talk to you about that at some point as well. So that'd be
give me something to work for now, but hurry up.
Yeah, so I'm booking you in. Well, look, Sam, thanks so much for coming to talk to us today. It's been absolutely fantastic to listen to the passion of it. So thank you so much for that. And on behalf of Thanet Writers, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.